Here we go. In 3, 2. Alrighty, guys. So, hey, Shane, talk to us. Tell me one or a couple tactics, strategies, or thoughts we can do with Google Ads that you know can definitely help other practice owners out if we were to implement it today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here, Michael. Google Ads is one of our favorite platforms at Crimson Media because what it does is it allows us to have predictability in our marketing and growth strategy. And that's what this whole thing's going to be about. So the first thing I want to just set up right from the get-go is for Google Ads to work for you and your practice, whether you're had a practice for 10 or 15 years or specifically, startups. We work with a lot of startup practices. You have to make sure, like building a house, that the foundation is set correctly. And the foundation in this case for a Google Ads campaign is your trackability. You have to make sure that you have the proper tracking in place in order for, number one, you to know what's happening with that money that you're spending. But number two, to allow Google to be able to best serve your ads to the right people in its algorithm. So I'm going to start with number one is there's something with Google called a global site tag that you need to have put on wherever you're sending Google Ads traffic to. Maybe it's a specific landing page that you've built. Maybe it's to your website. We personally don't recommend sending paid traffic to like the homepage of your website because it's meant for people just doing like an organic search, right? There's more information there. There's a lot more room for them to get lost. For anything that's paid traffic where you're actually paying money every time someone clicks on your ad, you want to have a specific landing page that's built just for that paid traffic. So that way they're focused in, the offer, the service, whatever it is that you're advertising for matches up with that landing page, and you're going to have a much greater opportunity to convert that patient. And it also, going back to our trackability, it allows you to track that easier because you can put a global tracking tag on that landing page. Then you want to build a thank you page where if somebody submits their information on that page, they'll get a thank you page that'll pop up, thank you for contacting our office. And that's where you would put what's called a conversion tag on that thank you page. So then that way Google knows, okay, if somebody hits the thank you page, they would have had to have filled out this form submission, which means they were technically a conversion in the eyes of Google. And the reason that's so important is because Google will start to notice what time of day, what day of the week, what area that you're getting the best conversions from. And they're going to optimize your bidding strategy and your campaign around those hot times where people are filling out those form submissions and contacting your office. So that's number one, is making sure that you have that global site tag and that conversion tag put on your site. And if you don't know how to do that, you can always, I'm sure, reach out in the dental marketing group and somebody will be able to kind of walk you through it. The second piece of that is having call tracking set up. And this is probably the number one mistake, Michael, that I see in any marketing campaign that we walk into for a dental practice is they don't have call tracking set up. So they don't know how patients are finding them, whether it's, from a Google organic search, whether it's from social media, or in our topic today, Google Ads. You want to have the proper call tracking set up. We use a software called CallRail. It works with all of your different, phone service programs in dentistry. But what it does is allows you to put a specific number on the page that you're sending this traffic to from these Google ad campaigns. So then that way, what you should be able to do is every month or 2 weeks or however you want to do it, pull up a dashboard and see, okay, this is how many phone calls that we had directly from our Google ads this past month. This is who called, when they called, and here's a recording of that conversation as well. And then what you can do from there is actually mark, okay, who came in and scheduled an appointment, who was just shopping around. And by doing that and knowing how many people actually came in from an appointment from your call tracking and tracking the number of conversions that you had come through your web form through the proper setup that we talked about earlier in the podcast, you're able to get what we call your cost per new patient. And once you have your cost per new patient dialed down, scaling your practice and growing the number of new patients becomes pretty simple. It becomes math at that point. So as an example of this, we have a client who says, we want to get 20 new patients a month from Google. We get about 20 new patients a month right now, just from referrals in the practice and insurances, but we really want to get 20 from Google to kind of, add that up. And so what we were able to do was determine, okay, your cost per new patient in the door is $100 based off of the tracking that we have in place with Google. If you're wanting about 20 new patients in the next 30 days, we're going to need to spend about $2,000 based on what our cost per conversion is. And once okay, if I spend $2,000 and I'm going to get 8,000 back or 10,000 back, whatever the case is, then that's where marketing and becomes a lot of fun, because at that point, where your dollars are going, what you're getting out of it, and it allows you more opportunities to invest in your practice, maybe get that, CT scan, or that pano that you wanted in the practice, because that you can get the patients in the practice to fill that and pay off that big investment. So it all comes down to finding that cost per new patient and the global site tag conversion tracking on your landing page, not sending the traffic to your homepage of your website, but actually sending to a dedicated landing page, and having that call tracking set up through a tool like CallRail, for example, are just two things that you can do to make sure you have a solid foundation for your Google Ads campaign, and that you can ultimately have a successful campaign moving forward and not feel like you're just throwing money at something and not sure whether or not you're getting anything out of it.
Yeah. So then where do you think like people go wrong with Google Ads when it comes to, because I feel like with the call tracking, is that just to see how many calls are coming in? Or is it more like, oh, the front office is messing up in the conversion here?
That's a great question, Michael. And it's both, because let's be honest, you want to know how many calls are coming in. If you don't, because if you ask a patient, how did you find us? I mean, how many times have we done that? And somebody's asked us that, and we really don't remember, right? We may have saw something on Google, then we saw something on Instagram, whatever the case. So this provides that ultimate true source of how they found you, number one. But that, to your point about training opportunities, there's many times where we've pulled these call tracking reports and we've seen, hey, you've had about 10% of the calls that came through just weren't answered. They weren't answered. Or maybe it's a situation where somebody asks, hey, are you in network with Cigna? And the front desk was just like, no, we're not. Rather than having a question like, well, we're not in network with them. However, we still can, send that information. What I mean, having an actual response to it. And so what the call recording allows you to do, sit down, listen to how your front desk is handling those conversations. So then that way you can ultimately become a better business owner or CEO of your practice, because you're going to know where the kind of the holes are and how you can train the team to better convert.
Yeah, I like that too. I never honestly heard of that global site tag or conversion tag, actually. I think that's smart, that to let people know that, though, like, hey, don't go to the homepage, right? Because we kind of get lost in there, you know what I mean? And all that
There's
stuff.
so many options on the homepage. Think about it. And it's great for, just like having a regular website where people find you online, find you on Google. That's great. But when you have paid traffic, think of it as, it's like, in sports, like this is a playoff game, right? Like we got to convert here. We got to win or go home with these patients that are clicking on that. So you need to have your best possible page that's simple, concise, has all the information that the patient was, searching for, based off the Google Ads and the keyword strategy, which is a whole other episode for a whole other day. But having, that proper page where you're sending the paid traffic is going to make a huge difference. And just from what we see, Michael, from the marketing end, is the number one mistake that people usually make outside of the tracking is, they'll say, well, I spend about $1,000 a month on Google Ads, but I have no idea if it's working. Like that, I hear that all the time. And that can easily be fixed by putting these policies in place.
That's true. People say that a lot. Like, oh, I think it's work. I mean, I've always heard Google Ads works, right? And whenever I asked the people, or I asked a lot of the members in the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, I was like, hey, like, what do y'all want to talk about, right? And then they're like, Google Ads. So I know it works pretty well. I just feel like there's a formula, and I feel like sometimes we complicate it a little too much. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. And let's be honest, it's not as easy to set up as like Facebook ads are, where Facebook, you could literally, whether you go into the business manager or you just like boost a post, like it's pretty easy. Whereas Google ads, it takes a little bit of work. It takes some knowledge of, the keywords that you're bidding on, making sure that you're not bidding on irrelevant keywords. Like, for example, you want to show up when someone searches dentist near me, but you don't want to show up for a term like, how do I become a dentist, right? Both of
yeah,
those terms have dentist in them. And if you don't know what you're doing, your ad could be showing up for an irrelevant term like that. So there is a little bit more trickiness, to the Google Ads side of it. So it's totally understandable when people get, hung up on exactly where to start there, because if you've never done it before, it can be tricky.
yeah. And maybe in further episodes we can talk a little bit more on how to, like, the type of keywords, what to do, what to say, right? I know sometimes I'm searching for something and I see a Google ad and it's like all the way, I'm in California, so it'll be like from somebody in Texas, and I'm like, how would somebody should let them know that I'm not, they're spending money, you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah,
a waste.
that's absolutely, having locations set up too far outside of where your patients will travel, especially like California, Southern California, for example. Sometimes people, just for general dental ads, we'll see them running way too large of a radius, because Southern Cal, there's a gazillion dentists on every block, right? So it's like, you don't want to be running an ad maybe 20 miles out if you're in the Los Angeles area, unless it's something very high end, like implant, something like that where people may travel for. But if it's just like general dental, you don't want to waste your budget. You want to be in a tighter area where people, are going to actually come to your practice because of convenience sake too. So definitely that's a whole other topic, and we should definitely talk about that sometime.
Awesome, awesome. So this is good. This is good. We got the first two steps, right? Like the main steps right now. What we need to do is make sure we know where our marketing dollars are being spent, tracking it right, and with the call rel or whatever method that they kind of use for tracking, right? That, and at the same time, the you said it was the global site tags and the conversion tags, right? And really quick reminder, just it's super simple. What do those two things are? What do they mean again?
Yeah. So basically and this happens when you go into your Google Ads setup tool. You'll see the global site tag basically is, think of it as if we have two pages total. We have the landing page where we send the traffic to, and we have the thank you page where once someone fills out a form, if they fill out a form rather than calling, they would go to this thank you page. It would be the next thing that pops up. The global site tag goes on both of those. It just tells Google, hey, these are the two landing pages or two pages that paid traffic will come to at some point. And then the conversion tag only goes on the thank you page. So this is like JavaScript that you copy and have your web developer or whoever it may be paste it into your website. And the reason the conversion tag only goes on the thank you page is it tells Google, okay, if somebody is coming to the thank you page, they would have had to have filled out the form, because that's the only way they're going to get to that. And that tells Google, okay, we've got a conversion here. And again, the reason that's so important is Google optimizes your campaign around the conversions. That's how the algorithm works. So if you have it set up improperly, where it's not tracking conversions properly, your ads are never really going to get honed in, and you're going to be way overpaying and getting way less conversions because of that.
Gotcha. So guys, I hope you got a lot out of this. Shane, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has further questions, you can definitely find them in the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, or where can they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, Dental Marketer Facebook group, or you can go to our website, crimsonmediagroup.com, and you can reach out to us there, fill out a form, and you can book a time with me personally to chat about kind of everything that we offer, and also answer any questions that you might have as well.
Awesome. So thank you, Shane, so much for being with me on this Monday morning marketing episode.
Thanks, Michael.